What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the grouping of characters or units that have been released in Dokkan Battle that have been completely shafted by the category meta. To date, these are going to be, we're going to go over every single character in the game here that has 3 or less categories. And then I'm also going to be providing some suggestions about categories that Dokkan should have given them to, or maybe other categories that should be added into the game to help buff these units. So really quick, before we start going through these characters one by one, I want to switch over to the wiki real quick and show you guys what kind of spawned the idea for this video, just because I thought it was kind of funny here. So this is the 2017 April Fool's card, right? The Cyberman that came out. This is actually the only unit in the game that has no categories. He literally has 0, which I think is the funniest thing ever. You know, it's a singular Cyberman, even though there's multiple of them in the card art, so he doesn't get to be on Joined Forces. And then, for some reason, he's also not on Inhuman Deeds, even though a Cyberman kills Yamcha, right? So we would assume he'd be on Inhuman Deeds for that reason. But yeah, so anyway, and then he's also not on Saiyan Saga. So it doesn't really make any sense why this character isn't on categories, but I think it's probably just because of... This is a unique situation because of this card no longer being available and stuff, right? But I thought about it and I was like, wow, is there any other units in the game, obtainable units today, that just have like such a, a few amount of categories? So I went through every single character in the game, and then, that is how we got this list together. So it's worth noting here that I didn't include any characters that are like SR or lower. It's all characters that can be awakened to UR or higher, so level 100 or higher. I figured anything lower than that, there are plenty of units in the game that are just really random units that only have like 1 or 2 categories, right? So, and obviously those units are super irrelevant because they're only training fodder anyway. They're not necessarily characters that you're going to want to put on teams, but I assume that every character that is UR or higher should have the capability to be put on some type of team, right? So let's go ahead and jump in right here. So the very first unit that we're going to be talking about is Oceanus Shenron's. She's only got 3 categories, Pepe Gals, Shadow Dragon Saga, and GT bosses. So right out the gates, we're going to address something because there are a lot of different Shadow Dragons on this list. So we're gonna kind of make a blanket statement about all of the Shadow Dragons so that we don't have to go over every single one of them individually. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that all of the Shadow Dragons were created by somebody making a wish with the Dragon Balls, which subsequently created the dragon. I think that that qualifies all of the dragons to be on Power of Wishes. Does that not make sense? And not only were they created by the Dragon Balls, but they were literally created by someone making a wish with the Dragon Balls, and then they spawned. They should 100% be on Power of Wishes. That would be a huge buff to all of the Shadow Dragons in the game. Adding that Power of Wishes category would be very good. Now, I have another controversial take about all of the Shadow Dragons. In fact, this is about the entirety of the GT franchise. I think all the GT characters should be included on the crossover category. Now, the reason that this makes sense to me, if we take a look at the other categories that are on crossover, you've got all of the Xenoverse characters, and you have like the Fighters exclusive Android 21, right? Which makes sense because those are video games, so they don't quite fit with the canon meta of the true storyline of Dragon Ball Z. They're extra things, so they get to be on crossover. But you could argue the same is true for GT because the Heroes anime also counts all of those characters as crossover, and that is an actual Dragon Ball anime, but it's not canon because it doesn't follow the exact same storyline that Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super run through, right? So the same could be said about Dragon Ball GT. It is an alternate storyline that can't exist at the same time as the Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super connected story. So I think that the entirety of GT should be added to crossover. That'd be a huge buff for GT characters and for the crossover category. So keep that in mind for any Shadow Dragons that we come across. They should be on Power of Wishes, and they should be on crossover. Now, because she is on Pepe Gals, any of the units in here that are on Pepe Gals, I think it would be really, really awesome if they added a more generic female warrior category. I'm pretty sure that this is a thing in Legends, where it's literally every single female fighter is on the category, rather than just, like, Pepe Gals, which kind of loosely translates to, like, pretty girls, right? So obviously a lot of the monstrous women, like a dragon like this, wouldn't be considered a peppy gal, or she is on peppy gals, but would be on that girl warrior category as well. And then that would also include characters that aren't on peppy gals, like the youth female fighters and stuff, namely Pan, right? And then like Kid Chi-Chi and stuff, or like Bulma Youth. Actually, I think Bulma Youth is actually on Peppy Gals, which kind of makes sense because of the role that she plays in the Dragon Ball Saga franchise, right? Okay, so that is about it for her. Next up, we have Super Hachiyak. So I guess it's worth noting, I haven't actually seen the Hachiyak movie. My memory is a little bit fuzzy on some of the random older Dragon Ball movies, and some of the more niche moments in the franchise, so you'll have to excuse me. I don't have a perfect knowledge of the Dragon Ball lore for some of these characters. I also have the memory of a peanut, so please forgive me there. But from what I know about Super Hachiyak, does he not play the villain in his own movie? Shouldn't he be on movie bosses? I guess you could correct me in the comments down below if I'm completely wrong about that. Considering he's also Super Hachiyak, which is transformed and powered up to his full power, I think it would make a lot of sense if they added him to the full power category as well. That could be a good buff for him. Okay, so next up we have the Dabura Angel. This is a little bit of a tricky one, right? They take him off of all the villain categories because he's no longer under Babidi's control here. So this is a little bit of a funky one to add, to add categories to. It makes sense why they took him off the villain categories for this one. Though I will say this, he is literally the demon god of the underworld. Why is he not on Realm of Gods? I mean, technically he's the demon king of the underworld, but it could be argued, right, that if you're from the underworld, not only from it, but ruling the entire thing, that you should be on Realm of Gods. I don't know. It makes sense to me. I think that could be a reasonable buff for this card. Throw him on Realm of Gods. Why not? Actually, this is another point that I wanted to make. So one of the categories that I think would buff quite a few of the characters that we're going to talk about here is a Master of Magic category. Now, we already have a Link skill in the game called Master of Magic, so it'd be very, very easy for them to just apply the category to a lot of those same characters that have the Link skill. But yeah, I think that would include characters like Dabura, who are capable of using magic. So any characters in Dragon Ball that are capable of using magic should definitely get a category. I think that would be a really fun idea. Okay, so next up we have Chi-Lai here. She's only on the 3 categories. She definitely, obviously, would be added to the Girl Warrior category. And I think it would be very cool if they also added a category for characters who appear in movies and, have maybe some type of fighting role in a movie, but don't necessarily count as the main hero or the main villain. So they don't get to be on movie heroes, and they don't get to be on movie bosses, but some type of sidekicks category that would include like all of the minions, right? So like you'd get like Thouser and the Cooler's Armored Squadron, all of those units, right? And there are multiple other units that we're going to talk about in here that I think would get added to that sidekicks category. That could be kind of a fun one. It'd be a really interesting category because you'd be seeing a lot of support units and a lot of, banner units and stuff. But it would be a weird kind of niche category because you wouldn't necessarily have a ton of the, like big, strong main fighters that we see headlining all of the strongest categories in the game. You'd probably have characters like Bulma being like the strongest characters on that category, right? So that could be an interesting one for sure. Okay, so next up we have Anine here, again, only on the 3 categories. So as a female fighter, she definitely would be added to the Girl Warrior category if they added that. And then another point here is that you pull this character from the Dragon Ball Saga Summon banner. Why is she not on Dragon Ball Saga? That one's infuriating to me. There is another unit in here that suffers the same consequence, unfortunately. So yeah, definitely she should be added to Dragon Ball Saga and a Girl Warrior category, at very least, right? Actually, there was one more category I wanted to talk about with Chi-Lai, which is also relevant for this Anine here. And that is if they were to add a mechanical force category of some kind. I don't know if that's quite the correct name for it, but I couldn't really come up with a better name. Basically, it would be any unit that uses some type of object that isn't actually a part of their body to fight. Because most of the characters in the game are just using their own body or energy or something that they're spawning out of their own body, right? But for instance, Chilai uses a gun. She has a weapon in her hand, so that would be a mechanical, like, enhancement, right? Maybe it could be a mechanical enhancements category, something like that, right? Though I think that more implies that you've upgraded yourself with some type of mechanics, so that would be a little closer to, like, artificial life forms, right? But, yeah, so something, basically, it would be every character in the game that has a weapon super. That would be a category. So that could be kind of an interesting addition there, but that would be added to Chilai, and that would also be added to Anine, because she has the sword there. Okay, so next up we have the Para brothers, and oh my goodness, this is like one of the most egregious misses in the game to me. Literally, they have brothers in their name, and there's 3 of them on the card, and it's acknowledging that they're all 3 supposed to be included in the card because they're on joined forces, so it's not necessarily like this is just targeting one of them and the other 2 are just a part of the card art. Why are they not on siblings bond? Come on. That's just ridiculous to me. And then I guess if you were to make, because again, like I said, I don't really know 100% of the lore here. If these 3 men, or whatever they are not actually blood relatives, so they're not being considered siblings, so they wouldn't be on siblings bond, then they should 100% be on bond of friendship. They should absolutely be on at least one of those categories. And then if you're making the statement that maybe one of them is the father and the other 2 are, you know, either under them because they train under them, or under them because they are offspring of them, then that adds bond of parent and child, or bond of master and disciple. They should literally be on at least one of those 4 categories. So yeah, that's a really big miss there, in my opinion. Okay, so this is the first unit we're going to run into here that I actually don't really have too much of an idea for. Yeah, it's a little bit weird here because okay, so first of all, I don't really know what moment from the Dragon Ball franchise this is from. So I can't speak too much about like the movie categories or like the different saga that they should be on or something. But I suppose you should include them maybe on Bond of Friendship. But again, I don't know what moment they're from, so I'm not sure the relationship that these 2 characters have here. If Hachan is actually friends with Android 17, or if he is like bossing him around. Because I know that you know, Ader is one of those "hey you guys" kind of characters in the series, right? So it is very possible that he's just kind of following Android 17's lead, which is maybe why they aren't on Bond of Friendship. But that brings me to another point of an interesting category that I think they could add. It would be similar to Bond of Master and Disciple, but think of like the non-consensual way of Bond of Master and Disciple, because all the characters that are on Bond of Master and Disciple now are focused on, you know, one unit that trains hard under another unit and is willing to like learn and fight with them and grow from the things that they teach them. So there are a lot of moments in the series where you have you know, someone that has control over another character, whether it's just because they're bossing them around and telling them what to do and they kind of have them under their wing in that way, or whether it's because they actually have some kind of mind control, like with Babidi, right? So I think that would be a really interesting category if they added some other type of, you know, Bond of Master, or, you know, but just more like Masters. Like, I don't even know what the category would necessarily be called, like Masterful Force or something like that, right? So maybe this could be added to that category too. Okay, so the next one we got here is Napatine. He only has 3 categories, which is super sad for him, right? I think the most obvious example to give to him would be the Inhuman Deeds category. Because he is a Saiyan, right? And that's what they're notorious for, is conquering planets. They put him on Terrifying Conquerors and Space Traveling Warriors, so they're acknowledging that this Nappa is already, you know, recruited as a fighter that is traveling across the galaxy and taking over planets and conquering them and stuff, right? And it's known in the lore that Saiyans would wipe out these entire races. And Nappa, at this point in his lifespan, has 100% killed hundreds, if not thousands, of enemies. He should absolutely be on Inhuman Deeds, at the very least. Okay, so then we have Kawaii here. So she's only on 2 categories. This is really, really sad. One of those few units that is just getting absolutely shafted, right? Only Peppy Gals in Universe Survival Saga. Obviously, she would end up on that Girl Warriors category, so that could be a nice buff for her. And then, you know, we could potentially say that, if they were to finally bring back those buffs that we want for Universe Survival Saga and start adding some of those other Tournament of Power entrants that haven't ever seen appearance in the game, eventually we would see a Universe 4 category that she could get added to, and that could be another nice addition for her. Okay, so here we go. We've got another Shadow Dragon. So again, Power of Wishes and crossover would be nice. Okay, so then we have the Team Universe 7 here. This is a little bit of a tricky one to come up with some different ideas for. It's so hard because you have, you have so many different characters on the category. They don't get to be on Realm of Gods with the Blue Goku and Vegeta because the Android 17 and the base form Gohan and the Frieza are kind of ruining that and stuff, right? So it's really difficult because this tends to happen to a lot of the Join Forces cards in the game, right? Because if two characters are on very, drastically different categories, then when they mesh together, they just don't give them any of the unified categories. So coming up with the unified category was a little bit difficult for this, but when I was thinking about it, why aren't they on Battle of Fate? This is literally 5 fighters that are fighting against Jiren for the survival of their universe. They should absolutely be on Battle of Fate, right? That would make sense to me. I think it could also be not that far of a stretch to put them on Accelerated Battle as well. Considering these are 5 of the strongest fighters in the universe fighting one of the other strongest fighters in the universe, and most of the fight is depicted between small flashes on the screen that most of the audience members can't even keep up with. Accelerated Battle would 100% make sense to me. Okay, so next up we have Babidi and Dabura here. Again, a unit that I think would be added to that Master of Magic category, because any card in the game that includes Babidi and or Dabura should be on Master of Magic, right? Because they both have those magical capabilities. And then this could be another one that is on that, Masterful Force category, because Dabura is under the mind control of Babidi. So that could be very, very interesting. Okay, so next up we have Copy Vegeta here. So this is an interesting one. He's on Transformation Boost, Artificial Life Forms, and Power Beyond Super Saiyan. So, while it wouldn't be fair to argue to put him on all of Vegeta's categories, right? We definitely wouldn't consider putting this guy on Pure Saiyan or Gifted Warriors or any of that stuff that Vegeta is actually on, because it's not technically Vegeta, right? It's just something emulating Vegeta's power. But we can make a different argument here. Because they're acknowledging that he's on Power Beyond Super Saiyan because he is Super Saiyan Blue, then they need to also acknowledge that he's on Realm of Gods because he's Super Saiyan Blue, which is godly power. If they're not considering this to be a real version of Super Saiyan Blue, then he shouldn't technically be on Power Beyond Super Saiyan either. But because he is on Power Beyond Super Saiyan, I think it is very inconsistent that he's not on Realm of Gods. So they should add this guy to Realm of Gods as well, in my opinion. Another category that they could add to the game that would help this guy out, and a few others, would be a supervillains category. The same way that we have the superheroes category, and it's every single super type unit from the Dragon Ball Super franchise. They should do the same thing for supervillains and have all of the extreme class category units from the Dragon Ball Super franchise. I can understand why they haven't done that, especially because the way that the Dragon Ball Super franchise works for the entire last arc in the Tournament of Power, there's mostly just super type allies, so it wouldn't really make sense because Jiren wouldn't be on there and stuff like that, right? There would just be the Goku Blacks and stuff, and that would kind of be it. But if at any point in the future we ever got, some of those newer manga characters that, would get added to Dokkan, which obviously probably wouldn't happen until after they get released into an anime, but if that does happen at some point in the future, I could definitely see them making a supervillain category, and then this guy would most likely, if not definitely, be added to it. Okay, so next up we have Bergamo Giant Form here, another character from the Universe Survival Saga that doesn't have his own team yet, right? Because we don't have a Universe 9 category. So again, if we do end up getting some of those buffs for these different Universe Survival Saga characters, adding the other, Lavender and Basil, the other trio of danger characters and stuff, I could see a Universe 9 category coming for this. Also, another fun one for this guy. If you recall, in the showcase fight that they do before the Tournament of Power, where Goku first fights against Bergamo, Bergamo continuously gets stronger as Goku is attacking him. He's sponging all of his hits and building his power. So why is he not on power absorption? He's quite literally absorbing the power that Goku is releasing into him, and it's making him larger and more powerful. So he should be on power absorption 100%. Okay, so Bio Broly is another one of those ones that I am a little bit unfamiliar with because I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know the lore behind this guy, so I can't really give any suggestions for what this guy should be added to. This was another one of those characters that I was a little bit unsure how to, how to add him to a category. I'm not sure if he's under the mind control of something else, which would put him on that Masterful Force category, or if he is on a rampage the entire time, which would maybe add him to Exploding Rage. I don't know. So this is a bit of a tough one. If you have any ideas for this character, then feel free to leave them in the comments below. But yeah, this one's just kind of a wash for me. Okay, same deal with Pinnock. I'm not too familiar with Dragon Ball fusions, so I don't really have too much to offer as far as what this character should be added to. So yeah, we kind of got to give a little bit of a skip on that one. Oh, okay. So this isn't actually Oceanus Shenron. This is just a placeholder to remind me to talk about Ice and Nova, because I haven't actually pulled them, so they're not in my account to be able to look at here. But Ice and Nova are only on Shadow Dragon's GT bosses, and then also Join Forces, right? So yet another Shadow Dragon card that should be added to to Crossover and Power of Wishes. Same deal here with Nova Shenron, same 2 categories should be added, and then same with this Ice Shenron, same 2 categories should be added there. And then same with the Sin Shenron, you should add the same 2 categories there. Like I said, there are quite a few Shadow Dragons in here that have been hurt, and could definitely use these buffs. Again, another Sin Shenron there. Okay, so then we have Barlot. The only real thing I could come up with for him was that he should be added to Pure Saiyans, but obviously that would only happen at the same time that we get Vegito and Gogeta added to Pure Saiyans, right? Because they don't consider 2 Pure Saiyans that fuse together to be a Pure Saiyan anymore. For some wild, stupid reason, they don't include it, right? So yeah, I really hope that at some point, if they do decide to add Gogeta to Pure Saiyans, because it is just a pure fusion between the 2 characters, and the only thing that's involved is a ritual, but not any extra kind of magic, then maybe they could add that to Pure Saiyans, but I really hope they don't choose to take that way out and then say that, if you fused with the Potara earrings, then technically you have some other type of godly power within you that is no longer qualifying you as a Pure Saiyan, because then that would disqualify this guy as well, because in fusions they do fuse with the Matamo rings, right? So that is an external power that's being added that doesn't quite match up with the Saiyan power that's within them. But yeah, it's just completely egregious that Gogeta is not on Pure Saiyans to me. Okay, so again, this is not meant to be this Frost. This is the tech Frost that will come out with the Dokkan Fest Kale. Hasn't yet released on Global, but yeah, so that unit is on these same 3 categories, as it is the exact same named character from the same arc and everything, right? So Universe Survival Saga, Transformation Boost, and Universe 6. This is another one of those characters that would definitely be added to that super villains category, right? If they were to ever add that. So that could be very, very good as well. Okay, so then we've got Hyper Meta Rildo. I suppose that this is another one of those characters you could add to the, Mechanical Force. I suppose you could probably add a lot of Artificial Lifeforms characters to Mechanical Force, like any of the ones that are technically using a weapon to attack you. I could see that happening. So, this guy, though it's a part of his body, he does have this drill that he's using to attack you with, rather than just his hands and feet, like Metal Cooler, for example, right? Who is technically an Artificial Lifeforms, but I don't think would be included on, that Mechanical Forces category. So yeah, Metal Rildo could definitely be on Mechanical Forces there. And then same thing here, Metal Rildo, same thing there. And then same thing here, Cyclopean Guard. This would absolutely be one of those characters on that Mechanical Force category. I would also include this one on that Sidekicks category, right? Because this is technically a unit that's under Metal Cooler, and that is like a sidekick of them. So, yeah, I can see them being added to that sidekick category. Okay, so then we've got this Broly here, only on the 3 categories. So the most egregious missing category here for me, why is he not on Bond of Parent and Child? It doesn't really make any sense to me. I mean, I suppose that this is while, like, after he was sent away, you know, to live on his own before Paragus, like, went out to seek him. I don't 100% remember if Broly becomes a teenager before then, because I honestly thought that, that he was younger when, you know, when Paragus, like, originally found him, and that he actually grew up under Paragus's rule on that planet. So I'm pretty sure that Paragus would have been around for this. So yeah, he, in my opinion, should definitely be on Bond of Parent and Child. Also, I think, to me, it kind of would make sense to throw him on low-class warriors as well. Yeah, I think that could make sense. You could definitely make that argument, right? Okay, so then we have Cell Jr. One of the big misses here was that, you know, they didn't call this Cell Juniors, and they decided to just make it a singular Cell Jr., even though that there's a bunch of them in the card, and it's implied that there's multiple of them attacking. That would be nice, because then obviously they'd be added to join forces. This is another character that would definitely be added to that Masterful Force category, right? Because they're technically just spawned, and then they do exactly what Cell tells them to do. So Masterful Force could be a good one, a good addition that would be helpful for these guys. And then another thing that I think you could actually make a stretch for is to put them on Youth. Because they are spawned immediately, and then they fight, like, right after they are quote-unquote born, right? The same way you could technically throw Cybermen on Youth. So yeah, that would be interesting to me. Though, they do throw out capsules that spawn the Cybermen, so it's not 100% clear if they have existed for a long time, whereas Cell literally just creates these on spot, so they are definitely born in that moment. They should be on Youth. Okay, here's another fun one. So we've got Shen. This is that other unit I was talking about that is on the Dragon Ball Saga summon banner and isn't on the Dragon Ball Saga category. So add him to it, please. And then we have another discrepancy here, because they're acknowledging that he's an Earthbred fighter. Okay, sure. Because of the body of Shen, I guess? But the fact that he's on Realm of Gods, acknowledging that this is actually Kami in disguise, I think means that he should also be on the Namekians category, no? Because if they're acknowledging it's Kami in disguise, then Kami's a Namekian, so put him on Namekians, right? Yeah, I think that there could definitely be an argument made for that. Okay, and it looks like that was the entire list of characters. So yeah, big boohoo to all of these guys for getting a major shaft. Hopefully we see some of these updates that I have talked about in the future. Obviously, it's very, very unlikely that any of the categories that currently exist in-game that I've said they should be added to, it's probably very unlikely that those characters will be added to these categories, unfortunately. But hopefully they at least add some of those categories that I mentioned could be good additions to Dokkan Battle to help out some of these characters, and any other characters with same names that come out in the future, right? Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble on about all of this. Let me know if you guys have any additional thoughts on the matter in the comments below. Don't forget to join the Discord. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace!